Welcome to Let's Get Unstuck, the space where we get real about the things that hold us back, the shame, the doubt, the stories we tell ourselves, and the moments that change us. I'm Tracy Edwards, writer, storyteller, and the voice behind Let's Get Unstuck. And around here, we don't do perfect, we do truth. We untangle, let's try that again. We name what we feel. You'd think I'd have this down by now. We talk about what triggered it. We untangle the story, and we find our way to something lighter, freer, and more honest. And maybe you feel stuck right now. That doesn't mean you're finished. There's a way forward. There's always a next step that will lead you to the person you were always meant to be. And that's what it means to get unstuck. So, tonight, guys, here's my inspiration in front of you. This is Lynn. This is part 2 of our Motherhood series, our 4-part Motherhood series. And it's Lynn's story that holds a lot of weight in this conversation tonight. And actually, Lynn inspired me to write my story about motherhood because I read her story and started sobbing my eyes out. And I had to kind of take a pause and figure out why am I so overly emotional about this particular topic? And it made me do a deep dive into myself and realize that I have some maybe early mommy stuff that I need to kind of deal with. And if you saw my episode last week, mine's about my mother being diagnosed with MS when she was very young and I was very young. So anyway, that story I read from Lynn's inspired me to write my story. And then when I saw, how different our stories were, I was like, there's something here. And so with Lynn and 2 other women, we decided that we were going to do a 4-part motherhood series. So that is where we're at today with part 2. And so, as I said, tonight I am joined by someone whose writing holds love, bravery, heartbreak, fate, and resilience all in a single breath. Lynn J. Broderick is an extraordinary storyteller, a writer with a gift for capturing not just moments, but the emotional truth inside them. Her story, a love story that could have gone either way, speaks to the kind of motherhood that doesn't arrive with certainty or clarity. It's a chapter many adoptive parents will feel in their bones, and it arrives with hope, hesitation, responsibility, and a deep desire to love unconditionally, even when the path forward is not obvious. She takes us into a journey that began only after years of infertility, 6 rounds of treatment, that's expensive, and a career she willingly stepped back from, like a 60 to 70-hour work week that she walked away from so she could be fully present for the adoption process. Her story holds everything. The fragile first meeting with birth parents, the coincidences that felt like signs, the unbearable waiting, the fear of loving a baby who might not stay. And the moment Claire, who you guys will get to learn and know, placed him in her arms. And the love that carried her son, now 25 and in the Navy, into the man he is today.
Spoiler alert.
She didn't cry yet. Okay, we brought him up. She didn't cry yet. It is a story of motherhood earned through courage, heartbreak, and devotion. What Lynn shares isn't about having the right answers. It's about what happens when motherhood asks more of you than you expected, emotionally, mentally, and in ways you don't see coming. It's about sitting inside uncertainty instead of rushing past it, about learning how to stay present when fear and love are tangled together. This story matters because so many women carry a version of motherhood that doesn't match what they imagined, and they carry it quietly. Lynn gives language to that space, not with drama, not with blame, just honesty. So, Lynn, thank you for being here and trusting us in this space with such a vulnerable and meaningful chapter of your life.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, but before we dive into the story and try to not cry our eyes out and get through this tonight, would you share with we have new people on here that might not know you, just a little bit about you and your story, or not your story, not yet, and you and why you write and why Substack?
Well, I live in Illinois in case anyone cares, and that's why there's a fireplace going on here. I came to Substack wanting to write short form. I actually had started a novel some time ago, but things just kept happening in life. So I put that on hold and I thought maybe I can build an audience and write short form until I get back into the novel writing. So I actually went on to Patreon, and it was very lonely there. And I had read that Substack has a really great community, and that's how I ended up on Substack. And what I read was absolutely true. So I wouldn't be doing this if I hadn't come to Substack. So I'm very grateful I figured that one out. I used to be in the advertising world, and I left that to have a family because really being a mom was what I always wanted to be. And my career was more or less accidental. So, anyway, writing was always part of that. And I write to kind of make sense of the world, but I like putting my stories out there. I've been going through a lot of boxes of these old photos that I got out of my mom's storage locker. And I've got photos of people that we don't even know who the heck they are, going back to like the 1800s, early 1900s. It's like, Mom, do you know who this is? And these are photos that have been on her walls forever. No, not really sure who that is. So I just, and they're, so I don't want to end up at the bottom of a box one day. I feel like, especially because you know how memory can be, and I'm of a certain age, I want to get my story out there in case maybe somebody wants to know about me someday when I'm gone.
When the artist
So,
becomes famous after
yeah,
the fact. Um, so you were working on a memoir, or are
I
you?
was working on the novel. So I have this outline, which is actually like 74 pages long. And I did the character development, which is another 100 pages worth of character development. And I started, it took me a while to even start that whole process because I had gotten laid off during COVID.
Mhm.
Um, and I was in like an empty nest, laid off, new marriage, and I was trying to find a new job. And, I was in my 50s, and it was really difficult to find a new job unless I wanted to be able to, unless I was able to lift 50 pounds or more, which I really wasn't into that kind of job. And I have bicep tendonitis.
Mm.
So my husband's like, don't worry about working, follow your passion. And it took me probably 2 years to actually start that novel. I dabbled a little bit in writing during that time, but I was kind of floundering after the empty nest and not working. It's like I'd never been in that position before of not having a specific, purpose. Be a mom, have a job. What now? It's a luxury probably a lot of people would love to have, but I was just like, I'm not, I have friends at work, so it's not like, hey, you want to meet for lunch?
Mhm.
That kind of thing. So, writing has become very purposeful for me, and I'm glad I started the novel so I can get back to it at some point. I'm kind of basically waiting for my mom to pass away. Mom, if you're watching, I'm sorry I'm waiting for that to happen, but because
Oh,
it's just too much. I
no,
can
that's
laugh
fine.
about it.
Oh my God, I'm not laughing, but I am not.
Well, I know it's not really funny. It's just life,
Yeah.
and I mean, I have to laugh about it sometimes, but it sucks. It does suck. But because every time I got to it, my dad had a stroke. Okay, gosh, he had this. No, actually, I think I started it after he had his stroke because I was like, gosh, I'm not going to live forever either. I had never faced my mortality that
Mhm.
closely. And my dad was, he had lived so long. He was 88 when that happened. And so I started the process after that. Like, if I'm not going to do it now, when the heck am I going to do it?
True.
And then I started, and then he fell. And then I was like involved with that. And then he, things like that kept happening. And then, whatever. So,
And then Substack happened, and now
that,
you've been writing incredible stories about all different parts of your life. And I love the stories about your dad that you share and the beautiful lake that you guys you grew up on. And those stories are so emotional because of how I'm so close to both my mom and dad. But those always get me. But the one about your adoption process is why we're
Hmm.
here, and
Right.
your motherhood journey. And I would love for you to read your story so we can, for people who haven't read it, but so people can hear it from you, and just take your time reading it. It is so beautiful, and I am really looking forward to hopefully not having a meltdown and cry right now.
What about me? I might have one. I know there's certain, I actually read it to myself. I mean, out loud. I'd never read it out loud ever
Mm.
before. So Monday I did that. And yeah, kind of had a little meltdown. So I'm hoping I got some of that out of my system.
Good. You know what? Like when I did mine last week, I cried every single time I read it out loud. And it wasn't one time I read it out loud. I've read it out loud so many times. I have had a absolute meltdown every single time. And I was really kind of proud of myself that about 98% held it together last week and choked up a little bit, but you got this.
Yeah, you did a great job. I only read it out loud to myself once. I didn't want to put myself through that anymore. So
Oh, you're
here we
good.
go. All right. So my story is called A Love Story That Could Have Gone Either Way. Blessed. Of all the words I might have expected that day, that was the one I least wanted to hear. It came from Paul, the proud young father who, along with his girlfriend Claire, held the fate of the newborn we hoped to adopt. That single word sent a chill through me. Blessed. It sounded final, like he was already claiming what I was hoping would still be ours. We named him Ryan, Paul said, after Claire's brother. I gripped the phone, desperate to sound calm. The wrong response could shift everything. I'm so happy for you both, I managed. Are you still? Yes, he said quickly. We haven't changed our minds. A month earlier, my then husband, Chris, and I had received the call. After 6 rounds of infertility treatments and years of heartbreak, we finally decided to pursue adoption. I quit my 60 to 70-hour a week job so I could focus on the process without distraction. A year later, we submitted our profile and within a month got the call that a couple was interested in us. We'd expected it to take a year, maybe longer. New profiles usually went straight to the bottom of the stack. But we were one of just a handful of couples willing to also be featured on the agency's website. This was well before social media took over our lives, and everyone got a little lax about privacy. They even asked to put ours at the top, calling it the best they'd ever seen. Thank you, years as an ad exec. Still, the chances of anyone finding us felt impossibly slim. Claire and Paul were college seniors, concerned that a baby would derail their relationship and her dream of being a stay-at-home mom. Out of all the families waiting to adopt, they'd chosen us, drawn to the steadiness of our 10-year marriage, our survival through infertility, and my plan to be home full-time. We reminded them, they said, of an older version of themselves. When we met them at the adoption agency, our social worker, Margot, walked with us into a small room that smelled faintly of coffee and nerves. Claire hardly looked pregnant at all, tall and slim, hiding her belly beneath a loose blouse, even though she was 8 months along. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue before shaking my hand. They took the couch. We sat in the wooden chairs across from them. The social worker slid into an armchair beside us. I could barely speak. Claire couldn't either. It was the men who found their footing first. Paul was kind and steady, doing most of the talking with an easy warmth that helped me breathe. Chris and Paul fell into an easy banter as if old college friends, while Claire and I fought back tears. A lot of tears. As the conversation unfolded, we learned that Claire hadn't realized she was pregnant until she was 5 months along. She played volleyball and had assumed she just missed a period from training. By the time she found out, there were only 2 choices left: keep the baby or place him for adoption. At one point, Claire spoke up about how they decided to meet us. I found you on the website, she said. My mom went through the piles of profiles at the agency. She told me she'd found the perfect couple. Turns out we both picked you. It was one of the things she said that day, but it stayed with me, proof in the fragile moment that we were meant to find each other. As the conversation eased, we began sharing more details about ourselves, and Chris mentioned my artistic talent. I'd been in a lighthouse drawing phase lately, not for any deep reason, just because I thought the black ink sketches would look good in our family room. Paul's eyebrows lifted. That's wild, he said. My dad had been on a lighthouse kick for a while, taking pictures of them from his boat on Lake Michigan. For a moment, all of us went still. After all the uncertainty and waiting, the coincidence felt almost electric. Maybe it meant nothing, but in that charged silence, I felt the first faint glimmer of hope. Later, when Paul asked, would you be willing to take him home from the hospital when Claire's discharged after a couple of days? Even though the social worker had warned us this question was coming, my heart still stuttered. At the time in Illinois, the law required birth parents to wait 72 hours after delivery before they can sign over their parental rights. 3 long days meant to be sure they haven't rushed into a decision. But we were allowed to take the baby home earlier at 48 hours as foster parents, rather than have him placed temporarily with strangers during that waiting period. We knew they could still change their minds before or even after we brought him home. We said yes anyway. We left the meeting unsure if they truly liked us, but we went home and got to work anyway, painting the nursery bright green and yellow with a circus elephant border, neutral enough in case it all fell through. We stocked up on bottles, diapers, a car seat, and waited. That waiting, after years of infertility, was its own special kind of ache, something you don't really get used to. Still, we were closer to a baby than ever before. A few days before the due date, Margot called. He's here, she said. 6.5 pounds, perfectly healthy. She put Paul on the line. And how are you feeling? I asked. Blessed, he said. The word I didn't expect to hear, the word that made my stomach drop. 2 days later, we packed the diaper bag and, with my parents along for moral support and extra sets of hands for our first week as parents, started toward the hospital, nerves shot and hearts racing. Barely out of the driveway, Margot called. They're very emotional, she said. This could go either way. Be prepared. We might have to call and tell you to turn around. I tried to protect myself with logic and mind games. If they changed their minds, I told myself, it would hurt us far less to give him back than it would hurt them to let him go. I could pretend we were just babysitting, not bro-attached. But I wasn't fooling anyone, least of all myself. We made it to the hospital without another call. Margot met us in the lobby, face tight with caution. Another social worker, Tina, was still in the room with Claire and Paul. Under the weight of uncertainty, we signed the preliminary foster paperwork. Seeing the name typed out, I can't say the name, sent me into quiet sobs. The P was for Paul, L was for Chris's grandpa, who was born the same day. They called him Ryan. In our hearts, he was already E. We waited and waited. Finally, Tina emerged, her face carrying that careful blend of hope and restraint. They're ready. The hallway blurred as we followed her. Inside, Paul sat on the edge of the bed, red-eyed but smiling. We were introduced to Claire's mom, who looked toward my parents and said, "You must be the new grandparents." I hesitated when I saw Claire in the rocking chair, cradling the baby as she rocked gently, her eyes fixed on him with unmistakable love. Gosh darn it. Okay.
That's tough. That is so tough.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Claire's mom gave a small, I'm going to pretend it's somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Claire's mom gave a small wave, encouraging us to come closer. We edged slowly toward what we hoped would be our baby. But in that moment, E was Ryan, her baby. My heart pounded in my ears, a jumble of emotions rising, colliding, impossible to sort. E's eyes were closed, his cleft chin, like Claire's, so much hair for someone so small. He was perfect. After a long silence, Claire stood. She looked at me, then at E, and stepped forward. Okay, here we go. Without a word, she placed him in my arms. If I start now, I'm never finishing. Okay, I sat in her chair and began to rock. It felt scripted and sacred at once. Tears streamed down my face, an unexpected rush of sorrow that overtook everything else. I couldn't imagine what Claire and Paul must have been feeling as they prepared to say goodbye. Chris knelt beside me, touching E's cheek. When it was time to say goodbye, Claire hugged me. "You'll make a wonderful mom," she said. I thanked her, terrified she could still change her mind. She kissed E's cheek. "You'll be in very good hands," she whispered to him. "They'll love you so much. I love you." Paul kissed his forehead. "I love you," he said simply. Okay, we brought E home after a crash course in bathing and feeding, still half in disbelief that they were letting us leave with him. My parents stayed with us, unsure whether to celebrate or hold their breath. Claire and Paul were scheduled to sign at 10 the next morning. Morning came with feedings and diaper changes. 10 o'clock came and went. 11, 11:30. Then the phone rang. "Claire isn't feeling well," Margot said. "They'll come in later." And so we waited.
Oh, gosh.
E.
Ugh.
Hang on a second. Just going to dab my eyes a little. E never fussed. He ate like a champ and slept like an angel. It was impossible not to become attached, to love him. By dusk, we all sat together in the dim family room, barely speaking. I cradled E and watched the sun drop below the trees until we sat in near darkness, not bothering to turn on the lights, afraid to move, afraid to break the spell. Unable to bear growing more attached, I handed him to my dad, who sat beside me. I broke down sobbing. I was terrified to love him more than I already did. It felt like forever before the phone rang again. They signed the papers. We cheered, cried, called everyone we knew, yet even in our joy, I felt a quiet ache for Claire and Paul, their loss intertwined with our gain. And then I have 5 years later, we waved. Stop. We waved. Here we go. We waved to Eve. Eve. Who the hell's Eve? We waved to E, just plain old E. Gelled hair, contagious.
Eve. I love it. Oh my God. Good.
I laugh and cry at the same time. This is what happens when I say goodbye to Ethan. That's his name. Sorry, E, whatever. But, well, if you're on social media, you'll see his name. But anyway,
Yeah.
So I cry and laugh all at the same time. Okay, so we waved to E, gelled hair, contagious grin, eyes huge behind the bus window on his first day of kindergarten. My heart clenched as his tiny hand. Damn it, he's 25 now.
As if this happened yesterday.
I know. Lifted in goodbye. Our Lego-obsessed boy who said, "I love you further than space 164 fucking times around here." And a billion times around the moon. Our son. As the bus pulled away, I buried my face in Fritz's chest and cried. Time had moved too fast. He had become a funny, kind, endlessly curious child, Claire and Paul's extraordinary gift. We talked about adopting again, but everything about E's arrival felt so perfect that we were afraid to upset the apple cart. He was our one and only, and somehow that felt complete. I was lucky enough to stay home with him until he was 15 when Chris and I split, and I had to give up my life as a low-paid green living podcast sidekick to get a real job with benefits.
My God.
There's a whole other section about where Ethan is now.
Yeah. Do you got it in you?
Sure, I'll try. E is in the Navy now, stationed in California. He's fallen. Huh? I know. He's falling in love with the ocean and mountains and probably won't return to mostly flat, boring Illinois. I miss him deeply, but I'm endlessly grateful to his biological parents for giving me the gift of motherhood, the gift of knowing this remarkable, charismatic young man. I'm also grateful for the bond E has formed with my husband, his stepdad. It helped that E was still in high school when my husband and I met, not Ethan and I. In case you're wondering. These days, E texts him more than he does me, sharing his latest cooking triumphs, asking advice about his apartment, and probably things I'll never know. And while part of me wishes he'd message me more often, I'm genuinely thrilled that they have that kind of relationship. And then he was home recently, not recently anymore because I wrote this a while ago, but he came home. I went there. I'm just going to end that part right now, but basically I'll just go up to, and every time I try to remember the word blessed. E is a rare soul loved by so many, and no matter how far away life carries him, I'm comforted by the love that began all those years ago, the love that almost wasn't mine to keep. And that's that.
I'm so proud of you. You
I
did
did it.
you did it. You did it. And I want to sit with it for a moment just because, I mean, you literally took the story. It's an emotional roller coaster. And I think the reason why it hit me so hard, like in a good way, when I first read the story was because, it's like I felt your heart. And I felt like my husband and I have spoken about adoption so many times, but the fact of what you went through is the exact thing that would scare the daylights out of me. And
Right.
kind of I've even questioned like, fostering, like I wouldn't know what it's like to have to give something back. I don't want to know what it's like to love someone so much in such a short period of time and have to give them back.
Hmm.
I think that, the amount of bravery and courage it took for you to, one, go through all the infertility cycles, which again I've had multiple friends who have done that and had success and not had success, but it's tiring, it's expensive, it's
Well, it was
heartbreaking.
covered by insurance when I was going through it.
Oh, that's all. Not everybody has that luxury. My goodness.
Yeah. I mean, that was a
Wow.
whole different world back then.
Wow.
Back in the old days, don't you know?
I'm pretty sure the old days everybody got pregnant just for some way or another.
Seems like it, that's for sure.
Overly pregnant. Um, but I just the adoption process and just it takes a certain person to be able to do what you did and a certain heart. And that's why I think I just kind of gravitated to you so much. And I was like, I have to be friends and love this person because like I just can tell how genuinely big your heart is.
Aw, that's so sweet.
And listening to your story took us through emotions, and it was the hope, the fear, waiting, and love that shows up without, well, actually long before any guarantees. So
Yeah.
it's a lot to hold. So just because I haven't been through it, and I don't know if anyone's on here who's kind of maybe going through it or not, you touched a little bit on it, and I'm not asking you to go into like specific details of like your journey through the adoption part, but like, is it because I'm sorry I wasn't catching the timeline, but you mentioned it. Like when you applied with Chris, I mean, how long after did you get your first match? Like, how does that all work?
Well, we were one of the fortunate ones. It took a while to, you have to go through and go through the whatever the certification. I don't know what the term is.
Mhm.
Be licensed as foster parents, so you have to go through that whole thing. Which I think, quite honestly, I wish everybody had to do that. Everybody that wants to be a parent, I wish they had to answer certain questions and think about things, be asked to think about certain things. So we had to do that first, which I don't know, maybe that was a few months right there. I don't remember quite honestly, but because it was over 20 years ago.
Mhm.
But and then I had to put together a profile, and back then it was just like the internet, having things on the website was like so new.
Mhm.
So there was a paper profile full of pictures and just details about who we were, what our plans were, for raising a child, what our background was. And because I came from advertising, I did a pretty damn good job putting that
I think
together
so.
because they did say it was the best one they'd ever seen, which is a lot. So they put ours at the top of the website. They asked, and there were only like 6 or 7 couples waiting to, be matched with whatever. On the website, there were only 6 or 7 couples, and we were on the top. So we
That's
had, my goal was January 2001. I was driving that thing, my paper profile, to their office about 45, 50 minutes away. And 1 month later, I was on a phone call. I was doing freelance work for the agency that I had left. And they're like, we have a couple of interested in you. I'm like, what? I thought this was going to take a year. Not typical. I mean, we really, the moons aligned, whatever you want to call it. And apparently we didn't know at the time, but they were also looking at one other couple. So
it's I understand why it is the way that it is, but I also like the emotional up and down, the
yeah,
the the rejection of love, like that type of love, that motherly, nurturing love.
mm,
Oh my God. Um,
yeah.
you wrote about how the word blessed stopped you in your tracks, how it felt like the ground shifted underneath you. What emotion were you really holding in that moment when everything felt so fragile?
Well, fear that it was just going to slip away, that we'd have to go through it all over again, meet another, hopefully get another call. Who knows how long it could take again before another, you know, birth mother, birth father came along, um, being interested in us. Uh, and yeah, so I just wanted this to be it and be done with the whole process.
Which
So it was definitely fear that it was just we'd have to start all over again.
I mean, it's emotional whiplash. Like you have hope,
Hmm.
but then you have fear at the same time.
Right,
And like you had said, your circumstance is not the average circumstance for
right.
like as far as like being matched within a month and then not having to have that rejection because it actually was an adoption process that ended up working itself out for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. It just was so. It was like one of the smoothest adoptions. Even they said at the adoption agency, this is unusually smooth. The whole thing from start to finish was just like boom, boom, boom. So,
So, and do you feel that the struggles with infertility intensified that fear, that like don't let yourself love him kind of yet feeling, or that
oh,
was
for sure. Yeah. I mean, that was, boy, talk about emotions. I mean, you're pumping your body up with all of these hormones. So not only do you have normal emotions, you're basically like messing with nature.
yeah.
I still don't. I mean, who knows? I hope it isn't going to affect me negatively down the road. I think. I mean, who knows? Maybe my menopause was worse because of it, or maybe
Mhm.
I don't know. So there's so much emotion tied to the hope of. I mean, you just think, oh, it's IVF. It's going to work because I mean they know what they're doing, but only a certain percentage of that even works. We went to a pretty darn good doctor, but um, yeah, so I was like a bitch on wheels during that whole process. I really was. I feel so bad for the 2 women. I had to apologize to them years later. The 2 women that worked for me. I mean, I was just like a nightmare, I'm sure. Because it's PMS. If you ever get PMS, it's PMS on steroids times like infinity.
Oh my
That's how
God,
bad it is. Hmm.
that's
You just feel
anybody's
like you're going to crawl out of your skin.
that's
At least I did. I don't know if that's true of everybody.
anybody's nightmare. That's anybody's nightmare to be
I hope
around.
nobody. I mean, if anybody has to go through it, I'm sorry. I am painting such a terrible picture of it, but it's. I mean, it's reality. But some people don't. I mean, I had bad PMS anyway, so that might be, why I struggled more with it. Plus, I do have anxiety on top of it all. So
Mhm.
who knows?
Yeah.
I could be different.
Well, I mean, and it's like, can anything in life just ever be a little easy without having all of the ups and downs? Like, do you
Right.
really have to just throw in all of that with infertility? Like, it's already hard enough what you're going through, but do you have
Right.
to add the extra? crazy, emotional, psychotic moments that we feel we have gone through. I mean, listen, it's what we do for love.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Yeah,
oh,
and had I known that this was gonna be, like, the end result, I would never have gone through all that. There's no
I
way.
bet you, I bet you would have not. You're
There's no
correct.
way.
The moments that could have gone either way. So that's that little topic here. It's so much of your story lives in those in between moments, the waiting and the almosts. When did you first feel yourself emotionally crossing the line from it this is possible to this could break my heart?
When the sun was going down, sitting there
Mm.
with him in my arms and just waiting and thinking, "Okay, they're gonna change their minds." That was it. I mean,
And you
and every probably, even driving there, I kept thinking, the radio was on. I kept thinking I was hearing the phone ring. Did we have cell phones back then?
Yep.
I don't know. Did we?
Did we?
We must
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Well, did we? I
It was
think yeah.
2001. Yeah, I had a cell phone. So I kept, because why else would I be hearing a phone ringing? So in the car, I was hearing, even though it wasn't ringing, I kept hearing it on the radio, like, oh my God. And then walking in there, they're going to, like, they could have changed their mind from any moment from the time even they met us. They could have changed their mind to the moment, like, we had them home.
So I want to go
Um,
back to that. I think it's the part of the story. Now, I want to make sure I heard it correctly. So please correct me if I'm wrong. Um, when you said you brought E home while you had to wait that time out, right?
mhm.
And then Claire felt maybe unwell and needed some more time outside of the time that was already given. In that moment where you kind of like you were freaking out.
That's why I handed him over to my dad. I was like, okay, I don't want to get any more attached. I mean, hell, she could have waited months. She could have waited as long as she wanted. The minimum is 72 hours. So
Oh.
they are allowed, or they're not allowed. When you place a baby for adoption, and I don't know, could it be different now? At that point, at that time, the birth parents needed to wait 72 hours to make sure that they felt they were making the right decision for themselves. So they had, at minimum, they had to wait the 72 hours. So we got Ethan on, I keep wanting to say E, but I can't help but say his name. So we,
Too
we,
late now.
I know, we got him from the hospital at 48 hours, maybe not even quite 48 hours. So they had to, at minimum, wait another 24 hours before signing the paperwork. But they could have waited. It could have gone on and on and on. I don't know if there's a maximum time out there, but it could have gone on for a week. It could have gone on for a couple weeks, where we would have had him at our home taking care of him while we waited. So thankfully, they did sign the next day.
What?
Not as early as we thought they would. I mean, it was hours and hours later, but they, so
Oh my god.
because
Oh.
we were in foster parents at that point.
And now, did you know? I know things might be different now because it's been quite some time since you've had E. But did they actually say? Do you remember a number in your head that they said it's 72 hours, but could last up to 3 months for that decision? There was
Uh,
no timeline on the
they
decision.
never said that. Like, I don't know if there's a maximum amount of, I mean, I would imagine that if they were that much on the fence,
Yeah.
why anybody would wait 3 months? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible, but um, at that point, they'd probably be like, okay, give us our baby back. Like, we want him now. I don't know. I don't know what the longest has ever been.
You just don't know though. Like, you just don't know. I mean,
No,
what happened if and I'm not I mean, of course, you're safe, so with the what ifs or, it doesn't matter, does it not, but, like, what if you're in a situation where the couple's together, they decide they don't wanna have the child, they found you and they wanna they gave you the baby, they gave up for adoption, But then like 2 months go by and they break up. And now the female, the mom, original mom, all of a sudden is like, well, I don't have him anymore. And I want to fill a void. Now I want to have the child. I mean, like that stuff
Yeah.
happened.
Oh, yeah. And, fortunately, they did sign, both of them. But yeah, I mean, but that's what protects you then. Once they sign, they sign. But I'm sure there's probably cases out there. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh.
I was just glad when that part was over. But yeah, it could have been even worse of a roller coaster.
Oh God. So the emotional collision of hope and heartbreak. This is where this question is going to come from. One of the most powerful moments in your story is when Claire placed E in your arms. That's, I think, when the waterworks started over here.
Hmm.
And instead of joy, you were overcome with grief. Now, can you take us into that moment and what was happening emotionally inside you that you kind of were having this,
Yeah.
you want to call it debate, not debate, but this feud between happiness and sadness?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even really a thought process. It was a feeling that just overcame me that I had not even anticipated.
Mhm.
I thought for sure I was going to cry from just for myself, I guess, or I don't know. You just don't know until you're in the situation. But
Sure.
seeing her in that rocking chair, her mom's there, my parents are there, the birth father's there, and my husband at the time, but seeing her with that baby, it was like,
Uh,
wow, how's she gonna do this? And how here I had all my emotions, and I mean, I am an empathetic person, which sometimes is more painful than not being one. And it just all like came crashing in on me, like, oh my God, she's handing me this baby and I don't even know what it feels like to carry a baby, be pregnant, carry a baby to term or anything like that. But I've heard that it's like you're attached. I mean, you're literally attached to that baby. So this is the baby she gave birth to and has spent the last 2 days with, feeding him and everything. And I mean, it just, like I said, it wasn't like a literal thought process. It was just like the emotions engulfed me in a way that just was like, wow, I just,
yeah,
boom.
that I'm glad you explained that because you try to understand where somebody's fully coming from when you read something and hearing you say it tonight as well. But like, I was trying to wrap my head around, I was like, that grief part, but you explained it like you perfectly put me in the situation right now where I can completely understand where your feelings were coming from, like
Mhm.
100%, and why that that disconnect between grief, there is that disconnect between grief and happiness because
Right.
you were literally witnessing something that was so beautiful, but so hard and difficult all at the same time happening with Claire.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he was tiny and
Ugh.
he was just so precious. And you could just see like how big his eyes were behind the lids, and that hair. It's all shaved off now thanks to the Navy. But I mean, he just had all this hair, and it was just like this little perfect package. It's literally a gift
Yeah.
that she placed in my hands. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know. That was something else.
For now, for rewriting what motherhood meant, at what point did you realize you had to release the version of motherhood you once imagined and accept the one you were actually living?
Um, well, that final moment when that last infertility, IVF attempt failed.
Mhm.
And we had just bought a house thinking, well, we could have triplets or something, made sure we had enough room for that because you never know. But then it was like, oh, that didn't work. That was a very rough time, and it puts your marriage through the ringer in so many different ways. So that, um, and I was still working my crazy busy job at the time. So I just had that, tremendous loss. And then we went and saw the Titanic at some point in there, which
Oh,
was not the best idea.
oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
Why would you torture yourself anymore?
So, and then I would literally drive home. I had like an hour drive home from work, and I would turn on the Celine Dion song and cry my eyes out all the way home every single day for a while.
God. Oh,
So, because you just do. You have like a dream of. But ever since I was a little girl, I was one of those. I was raised a certain way during a certain time, just on the cusp of women actually having careers and that kind of thing. But I always my first doll was Megan. I was gonna be a mom and I was gonna have 3 kids and blah blah blah. And so it's kind of a crushing blow when your body doesn't work to do that.
yeah.
So and there were just different times of that. It's just even learning I couldn't conceive on my own without help. And then I couldn't even do it with help. So it's just like one crushing blow after another, only to find out then the adoption process was so perfect. And it's like, oh, well, I guess this is what it was supposed to be. And I struggled through all of that.
Ugh.
And it was like, I think if I could tell anybody anything, if you're struggling with trying to get pregnant or you think it should be a certain way, um, I wish I would have been, you know, I wish I would have been more into mindfulness at that point in my life. I am more
Mhm.
so now to just like let go. I don't think it would have made it any easier. Maybe it would have, but you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And you can't really, I mean, you can't control it. You can only do so much.
Yeah, and it's also how hard are you on yourself, right? Like
Mhm.
you already are hard on yourself because naturally it wasn't working.
Right.
And then you go through the hormonal abuse, let's call it, because that's what your
Mhm.
body went through really when you had to get, injections. I think
Yeah.
that's correct.
Oh my gosh.
And then,
Those shots were murder.
yeah. And so, and then you go through that to feel the rejection of like your body not wanting to accept it. It's like for somebody out there who's trying to do it, like, and maybe in that situation, like, I mean, like, how would you I mean, I'm already skipping ahead because that's my next 2 questions
Okay.
down, but, like, whatever. But how, like, what advice, I mean, would you want to get or give that person, like, like, so they're not so hard on theirself? Like, we gotta give ourselves some grace at some point, and, like, our bodies are the way our bodies are, but, like, and we can't always, you know, be harsh on ourselves when things just naturally aren't happening. I mean,
Right.
you know, do you I mean, anything that pops in your head now, any piece of advice that you would say to anyone or
Well,
ugh, therapy?
I maybe some therapy, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it's easy to look back and say, "Gee, if I only would have let go, if I would have only made." And I was layering. I was going one after another with with the IVF treatments. It was like 6 times, and I didn't have even a lot of eggs that came out of this whole thing. So, some people have 40 eggs. I'd have like 10.
Mhm,
So and my fallopian tubes were blocked. So I just had a lot going against me, but I'm also very determined kind of personality. So I think it's just if it's at all possible to just try whatever options you want, but don't get yourself cornered into thinking that's what's going to work, that there's the whole, you know, maybe, and I'm not one of those things happen for a reason kind of people.
mhm,
But I think if you just um, try to let go
mhm. Yeah.
of what you think should be happening, and that's true of anything in life, really. I'm
Mhm.
not always good at that, so I might not be the best. Should I call my therapist?
No, but I think it's just good to hear from someone who's actually been through it to and that it had not worked for you in your favor and that, there's alternatives
Hmm.
and the alternative worked out beautifully for you. And that, natural birth or natural mothering isn't or traditional mothering, whatever you want to call it, it isn't meant for every single one of us. And that's okay because there's so much love out there to give
Right.
to someone.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that international adoptions might be less there might be less opportunity than there might have been back when I was adopting, so there might be more couples trying to adopt, or not maybe more couples, but fewer options. I could be totally wrong.
it's-
So, we just kind of hit it at the right time. We were fortunate, and, that's what I try to remember for myself, because there's also like the whole empty nest thing that
mm.
I do struggle with.
Yeah, we were talking
I mean,
about that. I mean,
it's
like, explain it though, like I mean, from your point of view, because I'm going to dive into your love who's miles away. Just one question about E, but I mean, actually, let me just ask it because I think it'll totally segue into what you're about to talk about.
yeah.
And I was going to say, so let's fast forward to now. And your son is in the Navy. Thank you so much for serving our country, E. I cannot wait to meet you. And he's building his own life. How do you see the legacy of that adoption story and who he's become?
Um, I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to
Like
ask.
when you watch him live like this adventurous, like kind of independent life, like what
Mhm.
reminds you that this love story didn't just hold, like it grew? Like what is he? I mean, I'm trying to think of another way to ask it.
Well, I can just start talking. You can tell me if I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah, go ahead.
um, I think like as anybody who has a child or multiple children, I'm not sure how many of us think ahead to what happens after we've raised them. Once they go to college, okay, then they have college, then they get a job. So what happens at that point? We, I don't know how many people actually consider they might move far away. Maybe I never really. I thought, oh, he loves Chicago. He'll just want to live here. But as luck would have it, the Navy stationed him in beautiful California. And I do have family there, so we had already been visiting there like every couple of years. And I certainly love California. So he got stationed there. He could have been stationed in Mississippi.
Yeah.
I think he'd be like, when can I get home? No offense to Mississippians out there, but um, that's different from California. California, you've got the mountains, you've got the oceans. It's like
We're spoiled.
he didn't get, stationed in South Dakota, or maybe if he got stationed in Italy, he probably would have wanted to stay there. So I'm kind of like, well, at least he's in the States. So I didn't really think about, like, sometimes I actually sit here and think, okay, I might be alive for maybe another 20, 25 years. Maybe I'll see him 3 times a year. Let's do the math. Oh my God, I'm only going to see him 40 or 50 more times in my whole life.
Oh
You
my
know,
god. You really go down the spiral on that one, don't you?
I do. So I'm not sitting around like, Miss Lonely Woman here, like, oh gosh, I wish Ethan was here right now. But I do, I think about like, could we have been having Sunday dinners? Or what if he has children? Where is he going to live? I only have one, you know, uh, kid. I have two stepkids as well, and they're in different parts of the country.
Mhm.
But I never really thought about what that would be like. And you just have this idea, like, on TV, they had the Waltons and they all lived close by.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know the Walton the rest.
Oh, I no, I do, I do. You've got the what is it? The big fat Greek wedding where they're all neighbors. I mean, it
Right.
can happen. But no, let me go back to the question I was trying to ask because I'll try to simplify where I was going because you actually helped me kind of work
Okay.
this out a little bit more. It was when you look at Ethan today, what do you think the adoption story gave him? Like, did it help him with any? sort of way that he looks at maybe fatherhood? Does it help him? Like, do you ever have those types of conversations yet? Or
Well, I've left it open to have the conversations, and we'd read them, the cute little books about, the little bird that didn't know where his mommy was. I forget what it was called,
oh,
but then he's, oh, it's a bear, and then it's, the rhinoceros, and they're all could be the baby chicks or bird's mommy,
oh,
So we would read those kind of books, um, to open up the idea of what a mom could mean to a child.
mhm.
And he knew he was adopted and knows, but it's not really a conversation that he's wanted to really get into. So I don't know what I don't really know what how that's impacted him because he hasn't necessarily shared that with me. But
Sure.
I feel like at least, he's got so many people that love him, which is wonderful between, the immediate family. And I know even though the birth parents aren't in his life, they'll always carry him in their heart.
Of course.
That love is just always going to be there. And I'm open to if he ever wants to meet those people, and I've said that to him. Then he's like, whatever. He doesn't really, seem interested, but it could happen down the road. And I'm okay with that because I think
Yeah,
that they're really good people. And
that is a really, I mean, that would have been a great question, but I didn't really know if I would be crossing the line by asking that. And I always want to be very respectful to
Mhm,
whomever I'm speaking to. But that is so, like, if he wanted to meet his biological mom and dad,
mhm.
I mean, do you know where they're at? Like, are they
Yeah,
still
I'm
together?
actually connected with them on Facebook. Hey, Keith, if you're listening, can you bring my phone battery, please?
Oh, oh boy.
I'm
Um,
only on 20%. I'll probably be fine, but you never know.
yeah,
I was
right.
fully charged. Um,
Thanks, Keith.
but what was I going to say? What was
Just
I
about
talking about?
being connected with his.
Oh yeah. Because every year on his birthday or near his birthday, Christmas, I'll reach out and just thank them once again. I can't thank
Oh,
them enough. Like truly a gift that I've been able to, and that's the thing I try to tell myself when I'm, wishing he was closer and that I could see him more. And he's not the best at communication either, so I don't talk to him as much as I'd like. Um, that hey, I got this awesome gift. I have his like little kid photos and photos of him grown up on my desk, and it's like I'm so happy that I got to raise him, and I try to just grab onto that like he is in my life. He is my son, and that's amazing.
yeah. I mean, it is. And I love the fact that you're so open to
Mhm.
still keep that relationship and that, like that, that open, like that,
Mhm.
just keeping it open. And you didn't close it off because I just know from other experiences that it's not that easy for the adoptive parents to want to be open-minded about that type of connection,
Right.
potential connection. So that's really awesome of you, Lynn.
Yeah, and there's all different levels of openness. We there were boxes we didn't check off, because when you go through and you fill out the paperwork, you can say, "Oh, we're okay with
Mm,
the birth mother being a drug addict," or "We're okay with various things like that." And I was like, I didn't want that. I didn't want, certain things because I didn't feel like I was the right kind of person for that. I didn't want to select disabled. I didn't want
mhm,
to have to like I don't know, and you see Crispy Wrights out there and he's got a beautiful thing going with his son who's disabled and
mhm.
I'd like to think I probably could have done that, but I didn't want to choose I didn't want to check that box as something that I would accept, and I had that ability to do so. Maybe if more time went by, maybe we would have narrowed down, but I wouldn't have wanted you know, um, an alcohol,
Yeah.
uh, fetal syndrome or whatever. I
Mhm,
wouldn't have necessarily wanted that either.
mhm.
So we got to choose those kind of things, and
That's
so
interesting.
we
I didn't know that was even like I didn't even know that was even like options of where you could, um, yeah, choose kind of that path that you would be willing to go down.
Yeah, maybe if years went by and we had no matches or whatever, maybe we would have said, well, maybe we need to loosen our criteria. But it was kind of like we had the option and we just got very fortunate that we ended up with a very healthy um, kid that was very easygoing from day one.
Mhm.
And he just like barely cried, barely whined. His teenage years, forget about it. Like the eye rolls were there. But even when he rolled his eyes at me, he started doing that and it hurt my feelings to no end. And I finally said, you know what? When you roll your eyes at me, it makes me feel like you think I'm stupid or like, and I know I'm a mom and, what I say probably isn't cool, but it really hurts my feelings. You know what he did? He stopped rolling his eyes at me. That's the kind of kid that he was. But certainly he got himself into a little, trouble now and then. But
Well, that's teenage years at its
yeah.
best.
So we just were very fortunate. So still are.
You are. You absolutely are. Well, we're coming down to the end of, and I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit over, so I didn't mean to. I'm taking more time than I
Doesn't matter to me.
anticipated with you. Um, so this is just an advice question. Really, it's just about bringing it full circle. So for someone who feels stuck in a version of motherhood they didn't expect, you know uh, what would you want them? What would you want them to like give themselves, like grace? Like, what any motherly advice for someone who feels stuck in a version of motherhood they didn't expect? I should just leave it at that.
Um, Start going to yoga. I think that would be a good thing.
Hmm.
Um, and just try to be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like you would a friend.
Hmm. Yeah. I think we get so hard on ourselves. We become our worst critics and we, you know, sometimes just don't know what steps to take,
Hmm.
to get through those types of moments. I mean, when I look at that question, I always just think of just, giving yourself grace. It just keeps going back to that and being kind to yourself.
Right.
And yeah, we'll leave it at that, Lynn. I'm out of things to say tonight.
Well, and like you're volunteering to be a mentor, and
You
I'm
do
a big
you.
I'm
Don't
a big sister mentor. So, and that's kind of I have the sweetest 10-year-old girl who's my little sister, and I just went through training to do offsite, so I can now go pick her up and we can do stuff together. And it's not like I'm being her parent. That's not what it's about. It's being a
know.
mentor. But it's still like I just have always loved kids, so I think it's filling a little hole in my heart to be there for a kid like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was like last week when I told you guys, I was really surprised when I got matched with a young adult.
Hmm.
What I love about Promise to Kids here is that it starts at a very, very, very young age. I can't remember the actual age, but very, very young child age. But they hold space for young adults up until they're like 25 or 26.
Oh, cool.
And I think that is so cool because there's a lot of them that at 18, you got to go on your own and figure it out.
Oh, okay.
And at least there's been ones that I've heard of. And for me, when I found out I was mentoring, a 20-year-old, I was like, you know what, this actually feels good
Hmm.
because I want to be able to help somebody of that age, if at all possible, to again not be their parental because I think their parents are actually
Hmm.
in their lives, but it's just to kind of just be that person, like almost a friend, but a friend that can give lived
Right.
advice because of lived experience.
Hmm.
And so far so good. I've
Yeah,
been
that's great.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I will be it will be interesting when the opportunity comes because I would like to work with the youth.
Hmm.
Uh, At least I would say like the young teenage. I don't know. I might regret it saying it because I know how crazy I was as a teenager, but like a young teenager, whether it's a boy or um Yeah, I just think that that would be a really fun challenge, a really
Yeah, and
good.
it's different when you're a mentor versus a parent of a teenager because the teenagers are just pushing back on you. They're trying to separate. They're trying to make it easier for themselves to, fly the coop one day. So it's just, if you're mentoring one, I think they're not going to be necessarily, hopefully, not rolling their eyes at you and things like that.
Well, do you have any final anything? So, like, after sharing this chapter, with, in your world and, what's been going on with, past the novel and where you're at with Substack, do you have anything that's next for you as, a writer or
I'm
anything?
just going to keep writing I just have to pick from my list of topics to write from. I just finished up a 3-part saga about being raised in a certain religion that was
Whoa.
less than conventional. And I actually lost a few subscribers that in the through that. I don't know.
It
I
happens.
wasn't bashing faith or anything like that. I was just talking about my own experience and my own questions.
Yeah.
Because being raised in that religion kind of made me debate. I debated my dad a lot on that. So, but it made me question everything about spirituality. So I just explored that honestly. And if I've lost a few subscribers that way, I guess that's
You're not going
the
to
way
please
it is. But
everybody. You're
most
not
of
going to
what
please.
I write is going to have, a thread of humor in it. Although I guess my little story about the adoption was not necessarily. I don't
Yep.
think know that there was any humor in that
Not at
necessarily.
all. No.
But it wasn't a place for it. So,
The only humor I think out of that is watching you like cry then laugh at the same time at
oh,
yourself and
right.
make yourself chuckle. But anyway, Lynn, thank you so much for inspiring me to write about my mom. I genuinely didn't know how much it affected me
Hmm.
until I heard you speak and how you wrote about your process, and it made me reflect and look at my journey of growing up.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be an inspiration.
Yeah, and because of that, it inspired this series that we have here.
Hmm.
Or this is part 2 of the ones who just joined of our 4-part Motherhood series. Next week we have Erin Gregory on. It's every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. PST. Sorry to keep you guys up late, and Erin will be talking about her journey of motherhood. And guess what? It's different from Lynn's. It's different from mine. And, but it is so incredibly relatable, so incredibly relatable. And the following week, who will end it is Ellen Shears, my girl. And, she has a really heavy story. Again, very different. So I'm going to close tonight. If something you heard today made you think or feel, great, because that's the point. Getting unstuck isn't about fixing yourself. It's about understanding yourself and forgiving yourself so you can grow into the best version of who you are already becoming. So, what I will say is there is hope and there is always a light ahead. For more real conversations like this, please subscribe to Let's Get Unstuck.blog, where I share every story, every post, and every live episode. I'm Tracy Edwards. This is me. This is my truth. And thank you guys for your ongoing support. And thank you, Lynn, again. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. And also, guys, real quick, I forgot to mention we are going to be doing a recap on the Motherhood series, but we're going to push it to the end of March. And hopefully, all 4 of us can attend it. But we're going to do a little fun recap to talk about this series. So,
And weren't we talking about having margaritas?
we're talking about having margaritas. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I like to have a beverage sometimes. So yes, I'm not Miss Perfect. You might see a cocktail in my hand. And then also Lynn and I have been talking. So if there's other mothers out there with other stories, please DM her, DM me, share them with us. There's a good chance we might redo this series again, and would love to collaborate with other people. So anyhow, I'm over talking. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Take care.